Wavelength.
The real issue with data privacy is who's collecting your data behind the scenes, so in the back end of it, and who is that being shared with.
Sparking the combos about Adelaide.
It's every woman's choice. If they choose to have an abortion, then so be it.
You should be having.
These issues need to be properly investigated, and we need to make sure that LGBTIQ people are supported to be who they are.
On Fresh 92.7.
Welcome to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. Tonight, I am once again joined by the lovely Hamish. Welcome back, man. How have you been doing?
Yeah, good, man. Good. I've been pretty good. I saw something funny on the way here today, though. I was driving past the church and they had one of those signs out the front, and on it said, God's love is infectious. Spread it around.
Is that some sort of coronavirus joke from the church? Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know, man. But first things first, please don't. Nothing against...
Wash your hands.
Yeah, that's it, spread safely, I guess. But I just kind of think comparing your religion to an infectious virus...
That's killing hundreds of thousands of people.
It's not a great analogy, is it? No.
I don't know if they hit there, but oh well.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're maybe just trying to stay relevant. I don't know.
I know, it's a pretty hip church. Up with the times.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they're just being super contemporary. That's it. Anyway, to tonight's show, for those of us that regularly hit up gigs and festivals, it's safe to say that this year really wasn't our year. But things have to get better soon. So this week on Wavelength, we're talking to some of Adelaide's industry heavyweights to see what they've got in store for us.
That's right. We'll also be letting you know everything you need to know about the coronavirus, not the church, the coronavirus.
The real one.
But next, Hamish will be chatting with a local filmmaker about his new documentary, spotlighting some of Australia and New Zealand's most vulnerable. You're listening to Fresh.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. Tonight, Hamish, you've got a really lovely story for us about an Adelaide born and raised documentary filmmaker who has put together an amazing film over the last few years.
Yeah, that's right. So I had the chance to speak with director, producer Hamish Ludbrook, who, is from Adelaide. He's located in New Zealand now, but he spent the last 4 or 5 years putting together this documentary called No Distinguishing Features, which basically showcases the lives of 6 individuals who all live with disabilities of, varying degrees, whether it's, mental or physical. And, it's just a really honest and intimate look into their lives and kind of their struggles, what they've overcome. It was just a really good chat. I had a chance to have a really great chat with Hamish about it, about how it all came together and the path that he's gone on and what it was like dealing with these people.
Sounds incredible. Like you said, the documentary is called No Distinguishing Features. And here's you, Hamish, chatting with the director of the film, also called Hamish, Hamish Ludbrook, about the documentary.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
We see a number of parents that come to us and they feel like there is no hope. And there's always hope.
We were told that he wouldn't walk, talk. Yeah, we were told lots of things that he wouldn't do. He can do all of those things to a degree.
I used to feel sorry for myself and cry a lot. I didn't have much to look forward to apart from schoolwork. Now I train hard to be the best I can be.
If you can picture in your mind you doing something, you are capable of doing it.
No Distinguishing Features is a documentary that takes an intimate, honest and confronting look into the lives of 6 incredible individuals who all live with disabilities, chronicling their hopes, their dreams and their fears in a world that's often unkind to the unfamiliar. I had the wonderful opportunity to chat with Adelaide producer and director Hamish Ludbrook about how this vision came together and what this project means to him and to the people involved. Just wanted to say first up, man, I watched the doco last night and it's such a great movie. Absolutely awesome. Congrats. You put together something really special there.
Oh, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to cry on my Monday night, but that happened, I guess.
Oh, well, look, I hope it was a cry for all the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. It was really touching, really moving. And some of the stories, some of the people that you interviewed were just incredible individuals, just amazing people, you know, like the stuff that they've achieved, the adversities that they've overcome. It just blew me away. What was it like getting to meet those people and work with those people and hear their story?
Mm-hmm. Well, look, man, you've 100% touched on my favourite part of the project, and you know why. Yeah, that's what kept us going, you know, across the 4 years of making it. I mean, to get to kind of spend time with people who've led such kind of amazing lives and are such, you know, strong individuals. You know, like Liz Nogent, who, you know, was the mother of Michael, who ran the kind of class action against the government for you know, really dodgy wage situation for people with disabilities. You know, she was just incredible, and you know, she you know, just a person of character. She lives with her son Michael in government housing in Coffs Harbour. So you know, it's far from a lavish lifestyle. And we get down there, you know, we drove down from the Gold Coast, you know, for 4 hours to get down there. And, you know, she does this amazing interview for us. And then we try to buy her lunch as, you know, as a thank you. Yep. And, she refuses, and she bought us lunch.
Oh, what a sweetheart. That doesn't surprise me at all.
So, yeah, man. And I mean, that's honestly, yeah, you're getting to hang out with such incredible people. I never really thought I was going to be, I never thought I would make a feature documentary. Certainly, I'd worked on a few other documentaries, and but I have to say, I would 100% do one again if, you know, if the right people came across, because that was by far and away the best part. Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that would have just been, so rewarding, getting to hear those stories and meet those people. And No Distinguishing Features is a really intimate look into the lives of some pretty incredible people. But this wasn't just your vision, was it? The story behind the film itself is pretty interesting. Could you tell us more about the journey you and your fellow producer Kevin Roberts went on to make this dream a reality? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, when we kind of started to do this project, we originally approached Rowan Crothers, the Paralympian, about working with him on a project. But our kind of mission or ethos from the start was to kind of work with Rowan. So we had a number of ideas on how to approach the project, but we just kind of sat down for coffee with him and you know, these are our ideas, but you know, what's the kind of stuff that been playing on your mind, and what's the kind of stuff that you want to invest in contributing to telling a story around. So Rowan and his mother Beth had a lot of kind of thought and areas, and we just spent a lot of time having conversations with them and learning about their lives and what lives were like in the community of people with disability, and that really just kind of snowballed from there. So we had a very our goal, I mean, Kevin put it the other day, our goal was just to make the most honest documentary that we could. Yeah. It'd be silly to claim that there was no editorializing at all. Obviously, we're filmmakers, we did have an involvement there. Yeah. But we really wanted to kind of do our best to, help these people tell their stories, use our skills to help them tell their stories in the way that they wanted to. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I got from it as well. It seemed like such an honest and candid look into these people's lives. I definitely got the impression that as filmmakers, for the most part, you kind of just stepped back and just provided that platform and just let them speak. Probably, for some of them, that's probably one of the few times that someone has given them that opportunity. So, yeah, that was really cool.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Look, I'm really glad that came across, and certainly getting some of them on board. There were some difficult, parts of the early conversations because they had negative experiences with media and broadcast media before, where they had kind of felt that the narrative had kind of got twisted into something kind of quite melodramatic or whatever, and they weren't kind of able to give it what they felt was an honest take.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely imagine the apprehension with that. Was there anyone in particular that you had specific trouble kind of getting on board to tell their story, or who was a little bit cautious to come forward?
Well, kind of everyone was cautious. When you approach somebody, I mean, I'm sure you understand as a journalist, I mean, the closest kind of analogy I can kind of think of is like a first date or even a blind date with somebody, when you have that phone conversation with them and you're really, you're trying to kind of get to know each other and establish kind of a level of trust. And, they were, we were talking about intimate issues, we were talking about really personal experiences and in a lot of cases, like really traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty much everybody, had a level of guard, and like rightly so, certainly it made me kind of consider a few times, like what would it take for me to feel comfortable, talking about my life in the way that they are. That was a real helpful kind of realization, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big ask. So, it's pretty courageous to come out and, tell your story, especially when it involves, so much pain and so much trauma, but also a lot of joy as well.
I think that's totally, and a lot of laughter, eh?
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. Like, I told my partner I'm going to watch this documentary. It's about, people with disabilities and whatever. And afterwards, she came up to me. She's like, "Oh, that sounded like it was a good movie. You were laughing." And I was like, the way it's done, the way the story's told, I really liked that aspect of it, that, despite the subject matter being quite heavy, there is a lot of positivity from it, and these people lived, still found a way to live really positive lives, which I think was really great to focus on. I think one of the things that the doco communicates really well is how every life is precious. So I guess what I wanted to ask is, why do you think that for some people, they don't see it like that? So why does someone having a disability make them less of a person in someone else's eyes? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's a great question, because it's a really complex issue, right? And I mean, it does get to the heart of, like, where do a lot of prejudices come from in our society, be they, sexism, homophobia, racism, like where does that concept kind of come from? I mean, I think there's a deep historical vein to that, and you've got to be aware of that. And I one of the things I was, happy that we were able to do with this film was talk to people really across, a lot of generations. We've got Rod, who was born in kind of, the 1940s, and, his mum was, quite literally told to euthanize him at birth. And then you've got Finn, who was born in, 2007, which was, a different situation. But you do kind of see how the attitudes that the doctors had, the doctors weren't suggesting that to euthanize Rod because they saw him as an abomination or anything. It was like they genuinely thought that was the best thing for the family to do to survive. Yeah. They thought that this child would be too much of a burden. So, but you can see how that kind of attitude kind of informs the prejudices that, even Finn can face now as a very young kind of preteen now. Look, it is super complicated. I think, like a lot of these things, comes from fear of difference. And also I just think a lack of familiarity. So, a big part of this, as you might recall from Rod's story of running an institution, was the kind of government and the medical system's kind of modus operandi was to institutionalize people, literally take them out of the public eye. So when you talk to people kind of who grew up in the 50s and 60s, a lot of them will say, like, I just never saw anyone with a disability. I didn't know anyone with be it a physical or an intellectual disability, and that's because they were literally, through policy, kind of hidden from public view. So, when it is something you don't know, I think, you don't know how to handle it. Speaking from my personal experience, in primary school, I had some, fellow students in my grade with, autism and Down syndrome, and a close friend's brother had a degenerative muscular condition, and that, so, I never had that experience of not seeing these people as people, Georgie was Georgie, right? She was just different, like all of us are different. And, I think the evolution of that, my favourite line is Liz in the film. She says, disability is just part of the way, people are. Like, she's like, I'm fat and hate you to introduce me as Fat Liz. It's classic. But we need all kinds of people to make it a community. And I think a lot of people's prejudice really just does come from ignorance. And so I hope that's the role that this film, might serve. And all of the other great, content coming out on disability is just to educate people, because I think that's it. Once you know them, once you've laughed at them, once you've learned about their story, I mean, yeah, I think that fear can wash away for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. I think you're absolutely right. I think so much of it just comes from, fear of the unknown, and we're afraid of what we don't know. And when we haven't had that familiarity, and we have a preconceived idea of what these people are like, that's what scares people. Whereas once you start breaking down those barriers and, you see just how normal these people are, like, honestly, that's the thing that really blew me away about the movie. Not, I've always known that, but watching the doco, it was like, really startling just how regular they were,
No, totally.
No offense intended, but they still find the same things funny. They still have, the same fears, the same desires, the same dreams. So, I agree. I think familiarity is a big thing and awareness, So is that kind of what you're hoping to achieve with this documentary? Because a documentary about disability is not exactly something that you make, to be commercially appealing. It doesn't. I imagine it doesn't have a whole lot of commercial appeal, unfortunately, as sad as that is. So, is that kind of your intention with making this? Just creating that awareness, breaking down those barriers.
That's it, 100%. And I think, it's really interesting that your takeaway is that, that they are just normal people. And that, that's where the title came from. There was an anecdote that kind of spurred it. Rod, the guy with no arms, has on his passport no distinguishing features due to a kind of, bureaucratic error. Obviously has very distinguishing features. But, he told us that story. We thought that was very funny. And so with our working title for a while. But then we kind of realized that, there's actually kind of a deeper meaning there, isn't there? Which is that actually, they're just people, man. They're just people. So, 100%. You're bang on. That is what we hope the documentary will contribute towards. Yeah,
absolutely. So, the thing that just really amazed me, as I've already said, is just how every one of these people, as normal as they are, they also overcame some really crazy stuff. And I think the thing that blew me away was how they all shared certain similarities, and that was that they were all given such small limitations, they had such limitations placed on them, I should say, and had such little expectations to do much at all. And the thing that just kind of really resonated with me was that every single one of them just far exceeded those expectations, by so much. And so I guess, do you think the stigma around disabilities, like when you look at Rod, someone who, grew up in the 40s, a time that was really, really hard, I imagine, to be disabled. And then someone like Finn, who is really quite young and, is at the other end of the spectrum. Do you think the stigma around disabilities and the labels and the limitations we place on them, is it still a big problem today, or is it starting to get a bit better? Do we still have a way to go?
Look, there's no doubt there's been improvements. As much as Finn has faced his fair share of challenges. It was nobody's kind of threatened him to lock him away. You know? So undoubtedly massive improvements, and a lot of that comes to the hard work of the organisations and the people that we kind of touch on in this. There's a lot of amazing people doing amazing work to just boost awareness and to address the problematic legislation and systems that causes a lot of these problems. That said, I think there are still a number of barriers. Finn's entering approaching the end of primary school. He'll be going into high school in the next few years, and I think undoubtedly he's going to see some difficulties there as he seeks to pursue a higher level of education. As a guy who can't speak, he uses an assistive device to communicate. There's no doubt that that's going to cause issues in terms of teachers kind of going, okay, so like what counts as kind of him talking, like how much assistance can we kind of give him in the da-da-da, and then you start to see all these interesting ways that there's a concept in kind of a lot of disability politics of like, well, it's kind of the structure of our society that's actually disabling rather than the disability itself, because the society is designed for people with different different kind of physical or whatever abilities. And so I think there's a lot of work still to be done there, and but there's positive change happening. Finn is doing a program at his school called what is it? I think it's walk in my wheels for a day, or sit in my wheels for a day kind of thing. And it's really cool. His school has really been kind of getting behind him, sort of communicating to his staff and students, like in his peers in the community, what are the small challenges he faces. So I think the teachers at his school are going to spend the day in a wheelchair to just get a vibe of like what it's like to get around. And you'd be amazed at all the little things that you don't even think about, like wheelchair accessible toilets are still super uncommon. And an interesting problem we had with this film was before COVID kind of came along, when we were looking at doing a physical screening, finding a cinema that would be equipped to take more than like 10 people in wheelchairs, super hard. Even in Sydney, which is where we were originally going to be premiering. So those problems are still there for sure. But I think there is the will in the public to start to move forward to change, and there's amazing people doing amazing work.
Yeah, that's it, 100%. So is the movie going to be screened anywhere, or is it going to remain just online because of the current COVID situation?
Look, we are definitely going to try and get it in physical screens. So the game plan really with the online launch is to build the profile, and then we can start to approach individual cinemas and say, hey, we've got we can prove there's an audience for this through these online sales. So, will you give us a go in the physical cinema? So look, I'll definitely be approaching some cinemas in Adelaide and hoping we can get a screening there.
Yeah, sweet. That would be awesome. So for now, if people want to watch it, where can they find it online?
So we're using the streaming service Vimeo On Demand. So you can rent it if you just Google No Distinguishing Features, or you go to www.vimeo.com/on-demand/No Distinguishing Features. You'll find it there. And you can stream it there for $10 Australian.
Sweet. That's awesome. Great. Yeah. I guess one other question I wanted to ask is, after spending time on this documentary and with these people, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions or some of the worst stereotypes that we still believe about disabled people?
Right. I think for me, the kind of biggest change has actually been completely rethinking how I value life. And there's something you said earlier in our conversation about how all life is precious. And, for example, Michael, he has a significant intellectual disability and a minor physical disability.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, a lot of people who, the Children's Welfare Association he used to go to was called, as a kid, was called the Subnormal Children's Welfare Association.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to go, he can't, contribute to the economy or whatever in the way as much as his brother can, say. So he's of less value. But for me, when you spend time with somebody like Michael, he contributes, just as much love and just as much kind of value as a human being, and he has just as much inherent value as a human being as any of us. I think a lot of the ways we value people in our society, can really be kind of thrown into pretty harsh light when you start to kind of hang out with people who have been treated as lesser. So. Yeah, I think there's kind of a lot to unpack, and I certainly found, I considered myself somebody who was reasonably informed on the issue, but I found I had a lot of kind of these subtle kind of prejudices or ways I viewed the world, my value system, that really started to evolve as I got to know these people.
That's exactly how I felt watching it as well. Going into it, I thought, I consider myself a pretty progressive and open-minded person, and pretty educated on the subject, but there was so much that I discovered and that I learned watching that movie that I just could not believe, you know? And yeah, as you said, even just real subtle subconscious kind of, preconceived ideas that you might have. Finding them being challenged as I watched the movie big time. And yeah, just watching these people and the lives that they lived and the things that they did. You know, so many of them have achieved more things than I've achieved, man. You know, so many of them live more of a life than I have. Judith, man, what an amazing woman she is. Like, and I just looked at people like that and I just thought, you know, like the world would be worse off without, you know, a single one of these people. You know, the world is a better place because of these people, you know? So, I definitely agree with what you say there, 100%.
Yeah, no, my favourite line, I think I said it already in our conversation, was when Liz says, it takes all kinds of people to make a community. Otherwise, it's not a community. And I mean, that's one of my big takeaways from this for sure. Yeah,
it's pretty simple. Hits the nail on the head, I think. And was just going to ask, do you have anything else in the works? Are you kind of just resting on your laurels for a bit now, or what's next for you?
No, most certainly not, my dude. No, very busy, always. Yeah. Kevin and I have been working on a drama. We want to do a feature film.
Wow.
We've been working on that for about 18 months now, so that's something we're going to try and make happen, here in New Zealand. That's why I've relocated here. There's a great crew here. We got to work with some really incredible people, and I want to work with them again. Working on a few other bits and pieces. Maybe got some other kind of writing in the works and stuff. So always hustling.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, no rest for the wicked. So are you kind of going to be, this feature film that you're possibly working on, are you like building that completely up from the ground up? Like you're writing it, directing it, producing it, you're going to do it all yourself again?
That's it. Yeah, that's the go. Yeah, I'm hoping to get some assistance at the kind of higher production level. Would be great to get an executive producer. If anybody's listening in, any producers, please
put the call out. Yep.
Yeah. Hamish at ndf.productions. Thanks.
There it is.
Yeah. So that's that's very much the hustle. Yeah. Look, we you gotta go bigger next time, eh? You gotta keep pushing yourself. But it'll be a new challenge. But one you look forward to. But for the moment, really kind of want to get that momentum going for this film. So people, any way they can support us, means the world. We are doing this through kind of word of mouth and our existing community. So if you see the film, you enjoy the film, please tell your friends, please tell your family. It means so much.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. But anyway, that's pretty much everything I wanted to ask you today, Hamish.
Easy as.
Thanks so much for taking the time to have a chat. It was really awesome to speak with you, man.
Thank you, Hamish. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for watching the film. I really appreciate your feedback on it. It's still early days, so to be honest with you, I haven't had feedback from that many people. So, it's really, really awesome to hear and, vindicating to hear that you've got those kind of big takeaways, because that's definitely what we were shooting for. So I'll be sure to pass that on to Kev and to some of our other interview subjects as well.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, it really hit the mark, and I thought, every aspect of it, the messaging, but also the production values, just the whole package was really well put together, and I think it's something everyone should see 100%.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That there was Hamish chatting with Hamish, the director of No Distinguishing Features, a documentary about 6 people who were born disabled but defied insurmountable odds and did some truly amazing things. Hamish, what did you like most about the doco, and how was it chatting with Hamish, the director?
Yeah, what I like the most about it, as I've already mentioned, is just how honest it is and how candid it is, and just how much Hamish and the other people involved in the documentary kind of just took a step back and tried to let these people just tell their story as openly and honestly as they could, and just give them a platform, give them a voice that they may not have always had in their life, and just how it showcased just how incredible these people's lives are, So a lot of these people were given a really, really tough hand in life, and a lot of people doubted them from the get-go, from the moment they were born, medical professionals, all sorts of people, just gave them such small limitations, and they overcame them all, every one of them. And the lives that these people lived are just really, really special. Like this one woman in the documentary, Judith, who has pretty severe cerebral palsy. Mm-hmm. And she's just like the most vibrant person in the world. Like, honestly, she's in her old age now, but she's got the spirit of a 16-year-old girl. Like, she's just, so lively and has such a, flavour, such a spice of life about her. And despite her disabilities limiting her, she's able to create artwork using a typewriter, which I don't even know how that works, but the pieces that she puts together are so amazing. And then you've got people like Rod, who was born in the 40s, I think, and he was born with no arms. Right. Basically, as it says in the story, that he was recommended to be euthanized by the doctors. And if not euthanized, put into an institution. His parents refused to do both of those things and tried to give him the best life that they could. And in a really kind of poetic moment, the story comes full circle when he grows up and ends up taking over the very same institute that he was recommended to be put into for his life. And he turns the whole place around and turns it from basically a glorified prison into a place of actual, joy and acceptance, and somewhere where a lot of these people were really genuinely happy.
It's amazing. So the documentary, it's called No Distinguishing Features. That before was Hamish chatting with the director of it, No Distinguishing Features. Hamish Ludbrook, I should say. And if you want to check out the documentary, just go to Vimeo On Demand and you'll be able to stream it there. Yeah. So it's only $10. So, I mean, that's cheaper than a 3-piece feed at Dirty Birds. So trust me, I know. So, you've got no excuse. Give it a suss. It's really worth it. It's worth a watch. I thought it was beautifully put together and definitely something I think everyone should watch. It'll really challenge your perception on disabilities and what it means to be disabled and the value that these people still bring. So fantastic. Such an important film. Anyway, coming up, we'll be getting into our lead story for the night about the future of Adelaide's live music and festival scene. But right now, you're listening to Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength with David and Hamish tonight, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having. Adelaide's live music and gig scene is definitely getting back on its feet at the moment. Most of the venues and clubs that we visit on the regular have become totally COVID safe, and we're happily getting back out there again.
But when will things get back to normal? Jamie and Adrian spoke with some of Adelaide's industry heavyweights to see if there's any sort of indication that we'll be out dancing in crowds anytime soon.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Live music this year? Not exactly what we had signed up for originally. We've all been here for it. Venues, events and festivals around Australia have been cancelled or postponed until regulations ease up and numbers go back to normal. But with restrictions easing up rapidly in South Australia, what is the Adelaide live music industry gearing up for? We talk to a few heavyweights in the local live music scene and get excited for what this year has to offer. Firstly, we chat with Courtney Duka, a Wonder Woman in the festival sphere, running festivals such as Oh Yes, Spin-Off, FOMO, Laneway. Rumour has it she was the one who brought Childish Gambino to Adelaide last year.
Hi, I'm Courtney Duka and I'm an event manager for 5-4 Entertainment. So 5-4 runs Spin-Off Festival, the Adelaide Laneway Festival, Stonecutters, O Fiesta. They're kind of the main festivals that we work on.
What has been your favourite all-time project in SA?
Well, I'm a bit biased because Spin-Off is like super close to my heart and I love it so much because it's something that like we work on from start to finish and put it on ourselves sort of thing. And it's the whole reason I have a job at 5-4. So I love it dearly. So that's probably my favourite on that aspect. But I think there's so many amazing other things in Adelaide that people are doing, and even working on RCC, like it's a main music stage, but then we have like drag performances and beatboxes, and like it's really exciting to get to, I guess, merge a bit of different realms of art into like music, because I'm usually just working on music.
So explain for our listeners what RCC is.
I guess it's a part of Fringe. They do lots of Fringe shows, but as well, the main thing I worked on was the main concert stage. So each weekend it was like an outdoor open concert area. But yeah, like I was saying, they kind of use that stage not only for the music programming, but to showcase some of the other Fringe shows that they've got going on, which I think is really cool.
If you're running the event from start to finish, walk us through what it is that your job entails and like how you kind of go through those festival steps of planning one.
I guess the starting point is 5-4 and Secret Sounds together book all the acts. So that's not so much my job, because obviously everything kind of rides on that. So yeah, once that's booked, I guess I start planning like the site and what crew we're going to use and the logistics of the event, but as well as the like marketing and promotions of it. So yeah, we do that all in-house ourselves. It's kind of each area is all done within 5-4.
What is coming up for Adelaide festivals this year?
I think anything that's getting planned for this year is pretty optimistic. But in saying that, I think what we can look forward to is lots of brands that you know are kind of adapting, and they're starting to think about different ways to put on their events or an adaptation of what that will be, sort of thing. So even with WOMAD, they're talking about their festival going ahead next year, and it's just, I guess, trying to figure out how that would go ahead. And I think it's been hard as well now that things are starting to open again, like really feeling for the hospitality industry with the capacities they're having to work within and things like that. But it is a little bit hard, I find, seeing other things kind of happening again, and festivals and events are kind of just left in the dark. We haven't really been given any sort of timeline or any, I guess, boundaries of how we can put a festival or event on. So it's just that limbo, and the unknown is really ongoing at the moment still.
Have you found that other festivals in Adelaide and you guys have been talking to each other? Like, has there been a big community in terms of like the Adelaide Festival scope?
There's been a little bit, I think, with more so of the like trying to get government support and stuff. There's nationally been a little bit more of a community, like we need to work together to show the importance of the industry. There has been a lot as well that everyone's just so busy trying to deal with what's going on, essentially. Like, it's kind of a weird mourning period. And now it's kind of, like I said, going into more of that how do we adapt, how do we survive mode.
What can Adelaide locals best do to support the festival industry?
I think it's what people are already doing, like in terms of supporting artists and original musicians and things like that. It is buying merch, buying their music, engaging with socials and things like that is awesome. And again, as venues are adapting, just I guess being open to that. Like, if it is just a bar now, just still pop in for a drink. Be more open to what the offering is at the moment, because we are trying really hard to offer whatever we can.
So last year you had Childish Gambino come to, was it Oh Yes or was it Spin-Off?
Yeah.
Was it your idea to tell them to get him for Splendour in the Grass in order for him to come down? Did you have something to do with Childish Gambino coming to Adelaide?
Yes. So basically what happened is Childish Gambino was booked on Spilt Milk, and that's when he like broke his foot or something. So he cancelled that show, and as soon as that happened, one of our bosses, Craig, pretty much hit up Secret Sounds and was like, he's not going to be able to do that. That puts his like booking blackout period all good for next year. So why don't you book him for Splendour so then we can book him for Spin-Off? So yeah, that's how that panned out. It was incredible, and it was like not only a big moment for the festival, but it was such a big moment for 5-4.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That there was Adrian and Jamie chatting with Courtney Dukafrom 5-4 Entertainment, one of the main organisers by some of our favourite festivals like RCC and Spin-Off. Hamish, what really stood out to me, I suppose, was the fact that they're sort of, like from what Courtney was saying, they're trying so hard to do events and try and get festivals back up and running in a way that is safe under the current regulations, but they're just not really receiving any support from the government.
No, that's right. It almost feels like, out of all the industries, the music industry seems to be the one at the very bottom of the list, is the last one of the last ones probably to be started back up again or get fired up again. And it's almost as if, the government and the rest of the world is kind of just like, we got too much else going on at the moment, dudes. We can't deal with the whole music thing right now. You're just going to have to wait. And I understand that, but man, I'm just so keen to get back out to a gig. I think most of us are. It's such an important part of, Adelaide culture, I think.
Especially in Adelaide where, I know there's always the risk of COVID coming back in here, but right now we're in a really good spot where there doesn't even seem to be much going along in the way of not even financial support from the government. I mean, even in the way that they're not even helping them put things on. They're not even offering them a real solid guideline on this is how you can operate a larger event. I've seen overseas they're doing big shows where everyone's just really spread out, but there's nothing like that going on in Adelaide, and there's no support from the government being we'll give you some of the infrastructure to be able to put on events like this, which would Courtney mentioned before, WOMAD's keen to go on next year. And I can imagine a festival like that doing quite well under COVID because, you probably would be able to spread out, sit down. Everyone can sit in a picnic spot or something like that. Would be awesome. But generally events should be able to adapt at this point in time. And if it's going to be around for a long time and people are going to want to go out and party anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
So why not try and make it do it in a safe way?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're spot on. It's like they haven't even provided any sort of roadmap or outline as to, any recommendations as to how it can be done safely. It just seems like it's being completely forgotten at the moment.
Totally. Later on in the show, we'll be continuing this story about Adelaide's live music and festival scene. We're chatting with one of the people behind one of Adelaide's biggest live music venues about how they've been managing the COVID restrictions. But coming up, Hamish will be letting you know what the hell is going on in politics this week. You're listening to Fresh 92.7.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength. We'll be getting right back into our story about the future of Adelaide's live music and festival scene soon. But right now, Hamish is going to let you know what the hell is going on in politics this week.
What the hell is going on in politics at the moment? Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
I'll tell you what's been going on a lot. But first up, some good news. SA became the first state in Australia to ban single-use plastics this week, the historic legislation passing state parliament on Thursday. The law will initially ban the sale of plastic straws, cutlery and stirrers, but will progressively come to include takeaway containers and coffee cups when it comes into effect next year. Meanwhile, ScoMo has put social media sites like TikTok on notice after disturbing footage of a man committing suicide was circulated on the popular app. TikTok's algorithms have been unable to stop the spread of the viral video, and laws passed in the wake of the Christchurch massacre to force the removal of similar online content aren't applicable in this specific instance. If this story has raised concerns for you or someone you know, contact Lifeline on 13114. Also in the news, Australia Post has copped criticism for allowing Senator Pauline Hanson to mail stubby holders to residents under lockdown in Melbourne's public housing towers, emblazoned with the words, "I've got the guts to say what you're thinking." The City of Melbourne Council blocked the mail from reaching the residents as they believed it would escalate an already delicate situation, but Australia Post retaliated by threatening legal action. Finally, China has said they arrested an Australian news anchor on national security grounds, and Twitter has banned an account of a close friend of ScoMo's for spreading misinformation about the QAnon conspiracy theory. And that's what the hell has been going on in politics this week.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
Thanks for that, Hamish. Oh my gosh, like you said, there is a lot going on this week. I don't know how to unpack all of that. First of all, that whole thing with the Pauline Hanson stubby holders was the strangest story I've read this week. I remember that popping up on my feed from the Sydney Morning Herald. What on earth? So to get it straight, so basically she sent a bunch of stubby holders, and this was after she appeared on a breakfast TV show that day.
Yeah, calling them drug addicts. Yeah, and illegal immigrants. And,
and then she sent a ton of stubby holders to the people in those towers in Melbourne. I don't know if you remember, early, before the whole city was locked down, they just locked down those 2 towers. And then, so she sent all these stubby holders there, and the staff were like, we're not giving these to these people.
This is weird and inappropriate, and no.
And then the CEO of Ozpost was like, we will sue you, Melbourne, if you don't deliver them.
Yeah, straight up. And he left him a note saying no hard feelings.
Yeah, but I can see their perspective of the post office, because their job is to deliver mail, and if people get in the way of delivering mail, that's kind of breaking the law. But
but surely there's got to be some special circumstances here.
These people were just delivering the people in the towers essential stuff, and then Pauline Hanson's like, nah, we got to get my stubby holders. And
screw the food.
Did you see the stubby holders? They said something like, I'm so sorry, or something ridiculous on there.
Oh wow,
it was very weird.
Seriously,
I have no idea how that happened. Also, the story about the journalist in China was also a big one this week.
Yeah, that was a big story. So yeah, pretty scary stuff. She's part of she's an anchor on one of the biggest news channels in China. It's one of the state-run news channels.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's got a national audience of billions of people, and yeah, one night she just disappeared. She just disappeared from people's screens. There was no mention as to why she was no longer presenting the news. All her videos and her profile had been deleted and wiped off of the news website. And now she's being held in an undisclosed location. Yeah, and her parents, her family and her friends are just getting radio silence at the moment. So yeah, it's pretty scary stuff.
That is so scary.
Yeah, no one has any idea why. As I said, they've come out and given the vague description of national security concerns, which in China that can basically fall under anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise no one's really sure why they've detained her and how long she'll be detained, and where we go from here.
Well, now that you've reported on it, you're probably going to be the next one carted off to an undisclosed location, Hamish. So
crap. Okay.
I've ordered 24/7 security group of giant bodyguards.
There they are.
Yeah, they're just outside.
I can see them. They're just waiting for me. Hey.
Yeah, I got a few snipers on the roof as well.
Yeah.
You're good.
Man.
I got your back.
Yeah, you got my back. That fundraiser really came in handy. I mean, that's where it's all gone, obviously.
I know, that's where all of the Heartbeats money went to.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everyone, for part 2 of Jamie and Adrian's story on Adelaide's live music and festival scene. Right now, though, you're listening to Fresh 92.7.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the conversations about Adelaide you should be having. Before the break, Jamie and Adrian spoke with Courtney and Duka from 5 Entertainment about what they're planning for the future in terms of live gigs, shows, festivals, etc., and what it's been like working within COVID-19 regulations.
In part 2, Jamie and Adrian chat with Jessie from Lion Arts Factory about how the venue is managing in this strange new world.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
In addition to festivals, a big part of Adelaide's music scene are the different venues that offer live music all year round. So we talked to Jesse, the venue booker for Lions Art Factory. Basically, he's responsible for programming all the live music that comes through the venue.
Lion Arts Factory is a 500-cap live music venue on North Terrace, as you are well aware. Mm-hmm. We program a lot of national and international bands, everything ranging from, electronica, dance, and pop and rock through to, death metal and punk rock. So, the whole gamut of musical styles, we appreciate every genre with equal reverence, and we just love live music. And I think that's the beauty of the cornucopia of music. There's so many different fruits to taste. There's no joy in limiting yourself to one thing. So, and you also, in a place like Adelaide, sometimes don't have the luxury of being too picky. But regardless of whether you do or not, I think it's really important to just enjoy all the fruits of our cultural stew, as Homer Simpson would say.
What has it been like for you this year with the lockdowns and the restrictions?
Yeah, well, 2020's been a tough year for everyone, I think, but none more so than the music industry in general. And obviously live music is a huge part of that. It's where bands make their money and forge their identities, really. So, yeah, it's been a tough year, but I guess it's just been a process of paving the road in front of us and constantly adapting and trying to, adapt to an evolving situation. just doing the best that we can. And everyone in the music industry that I work with nationally has been really supportive of each other and understanding of the situation. You know, there's no real sort of bad blood or tension when you have to, you know, reschedule that show for the fourth time or whatever it is. Everyone's quite understanding, and the general public has been very understanding as well.
Going back to your venue in particular, what does live music look like this year?
This year, it's going to look mostly local, and I don't think that's a bad thing. There's plenty of really great...
That actually sounds really nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of great local artists out there, so it's definitely a good time to investigate South Australian music and check out those artists. But it's going to look predominantly seated at this point and predominantly local. I'm optimistic that, you know, approaching the end of the year, we might be able to see some larger shows, you know, with slightly higher capacity and get to ring out the end of the year with a big bang and get some really good local shows happening, and then into 2021, you know, hopefully get some national stuff again and you know, just slowly pick away at it until the situation resumes some sense of normality.
Because it has been quite difficult because the restrictions have been changing so, like, on a weekly basis almost. How has the venue adapted for that?
Yeah, well, it's been a roller coaster, really. Every day is a new adventure. So it's just, you know, staying frosty and constantly adapting and just, you know, being like water. You know, don't be rigid.
Flow.
Be like water. Move with the current and just adapt and do whatever you can. Pave the road in front of you and just, you know, forge ahead. And
what can we do to support you and other venues?
Well, I think the biggest thing you can do as a punter is just go to the venues that you enjoy hanging out at, regardless of whether they have live music on that night or not. Get some friends together, go to the Crown and Anchor, go to the Exeter, go to Lion Arts Factory, buy a drink, spend some money, hang out, support the venue through this time so that, you know, they can keep their heads above water, and then when we come out of this on the other side, they're going to be in a good position to bring lots of great music through, and, you know, everything will be roses again. Yeah, and it's very useful, I think, as you say, to keep things in perspective and remember that we do have it better than a lot of other places, and just, you know, enjoy what you can enjoy, and we'll bide our time, and, you know, things will resolve themselves eventually. Well, you know, they will be resolved by hardworking people. They won't resolve themselves. But.
Can you let us know a little bit of what the lineup is looking at the moment, or what can we be looking forward to in terms of bands and artists coming into Lion Arts?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of unannounced stuff that I obviously can't tell you about, but there's a lot of really great international artists ranging from, you know, pop through to death metal, all genres that we're, you know, working with and talking about rescheduling shows and all that kind of stuff. 2021 is already looking quite good. You know, obviously we'll just have to see how things go in terms of international bands coming here from particularly the US. But, you know, as soon as that is able to happen, basically there's going to be that pent-up desire to tour and play to their adoring audiences. But, yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of tickets to buy when things come
So we have plenty to look forward to in the upcoming season, right?
100%.
Yeah, that's great.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That was Adrian and Jamie chatting with Jesse from the Lion Arts Factory about the future of the venue and I guess more generally the future of Adelaide's live music scene. Sounds really optimistic. He seems like by the end of the year he hopes that things will be getting a bit more packed, a bit more things going on. I mean, it's already so close to the end of the year. Can you believe it's like the middle of September? What?
I know, dude.
How did that happen?
This whole year has just been like a wild fever dream that I barely remember any of.
It'll be the end of the year before we know it. But what I really liked is his advice: just get out there, go to the pubs, go to the venues you love to do. He mentioned the Exeter. I know they're not struggling. I was there on the weekend and I could not find a seat. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, some of these places are doing better than ever. I think. So yeah, kind of like they were saying in the interview. You know, like one of the unintended silver linings, I guess, of the whole thing is that for a while we're only going to be able to focus on local acts, which is probably a really good thing.
I'd say so.
Yeah, so that'll be cool to kind of see some of those more local, lesser known bands get, you know, some real exposure at a time when people are going to be just desperate to get out and see anyone, you know? So it's a level playing field at the moment. Anyone can probably get up there and have a chance to put on a show and we'll get an audience.
It's a good time to be a local band. You can become Adelaide famous before you know it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard.
Yeah, I know.
You just have to make a viral video that ends up on Shit Adelaide, and there you go.
That's all you need to do.
Done.
That's. You should be a music manager, dude.
Yeah, I've got the credentials clearly. But yeah, I've actually got. I just remembered that I've still got tickets to Tame Impala's show.
What? When are they meant to be playing?
Yeah, they were meant to play in July this year, and obviously that didn't happen. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's done and dusted.
Yeah.
And they sent out an email saying, we've rescheduled the shows. We're still going to try and put them on.
Till when?
December. In December.
Really?
Yeah. So I've actually still got tickets to, a Tame Impala show that is apparently going ahead. I don't know if it will or not, but
not sure.
if it does, maybe I can do some on-the-ground reporting about what it's like.
What is it like at the first Tame Impala show in Adelaide?
Yeah.
Post-COVID. I like it. Thanks for this on-air pitch.
There you go. Always working, always hustling.
No, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Adrian and Jamie, for that great two-parter. I'm very excited for the future, and hopefully things do get a bit easier for all the live music venues and local musicians too. Anyway, next, Wavelength explains everything you need to know about what's happened with the coronavirus this week. You're listening to Fresh.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having.
Right now, we're getting into our weekly segment where Wavelength explains what has happened with the coronavirus this week.
Wavelength on Fresh 92.7.
Another week is sailed by, and another weekend of South Australia recording no new cases of coronavirus. There were 2 cases recorded during the week though, but both of these were from returned travellers from overseas which were in hotel quarantine and had an old and non-active infection. But as South Australia continues to roll along, Victoria recorded 41 new cases yesterday, which keeps them on track to easing restrictions at the end of September, which would allow public gatherings of up to 5 people from 2 households, and single parents or people living alone able to nominate one person they can visit as part of a social bubble. This gradual easing of restrictions means it will still be some time before Victorians can resume travelling around Australia. But this has not prevented the 2 major domestic airlines and 2 travel agency companies entering into a 4-week advertising campaign encouraging Queensland to open their state borders to save the struggling tourism industry. And this may, unfortunately, bring more fuel to the freedom protests, which saw 74 people arrested in Melbourne, some of which claiming that the coronavirus has not even been proven as real. On the other side of the country, a woman in Western Australia has become the first Australian to be fitted with an electronic ankle location tracker. She was ordered to wear this after being allowed to enter the state from New South Wales on September 1, providing she would self-isolate at home on her own for 2 weeks, which ended up not happening. In other news, Premier Stephen Marshall announced a $20 million tourism industry development fund, which will offer grants to cover 30% of a new project for a tourism operator, be it for renovations, to enhance tourist experience, or visitor transport option. This is expected to directly create 1,400 jobs in the industry. This is fantastic news considering local operators averaged around 40% less visitors in May and June compared to the same time last year. Finally, you may have been rejoicing in the last week when SA officially became the first state to ban single-use plastic. But this rule will actually not come into effect until next year due to the pandemic making now not the most appropriate time to enforce it. Oh, and before I forget, the Adelaide Christmas pageant will go ahead after all, but in a slightly different format. Rather than showing up before dawn to reserve a spot on North Terrace, with one of the allocated tickets, you can show up after dawn to Adelaide Oval on November the 14th. This will also be broadcasted live on TV, so it looks like we can get into the festive season after all by supporting our Adelaide icon.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
That there was Anthony letting you know everything you need to know about the coronavirus. You're listening to Fresh 92.7.
Wavelength.
Welcome back to Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having tonight with David and Hamish.
It's time for Heaps Good News, the segment where we remind you that there's some great stuff still going on in the world.
This week, Amila has the stories for us.
Heaps Good News on Wavelength.
A study published in the journal Conservation Letters has found that up to 48 species have been saved due to conservation efforts. Dr. Stuart Butchart says the findings showed that commitments to prevent future species loss is achievable and essential to sustain a healthy planet. In Perth, Darcy Keeley was desperately seeking a match for a bone marrow transplant after being diagnosed with leukemia. After a social media call-out, the 4-year-old found a match once thousands of people registered to see if they could help his recovery. As a result, it also led to an influx of new donors. Interstate, Melbourne's COVID-19 roadmap is looking optimistic, with events like the Melbourne Cup and Boxing Day on the table to run this year. It's also possible Aussies will see the Australian Open run during the summer. In SA, environmental campaigners are rejoicing after our state has made the push to be the first in the country to ban single-use plastics such as cutlery, straws and stirrers. Exemptions have been put in place for those with disabilities and medical reasons to use the items. The ban will come into force early next year. And finally, it's been announced that the Christmas pageant is planned to go ahead. It will be held at Adelaide Oval and could allow up to 25,000 people to attend. For those who miss out on the chance to see it in the flesh, it will be broadcasted for the whole family to watch.
Wavelength, sparking the convos about Adelaide you should be having on Fresh 92.7.
Thank you for that, Amila, and thank you, Adelaide, for listening to Wavelength this week.
Yeah, thank you. Make sure you've subscribed to the Wavelength podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can listen back to our old episodes right now. We will also have an extended chat with the Director of No Distinguishing Features, Hamish Ludbrook. So if you want to check that, give it a sus and you'll be the first to know when tonight's episode goes up.
We'll also actually have an extended version of the chats with Courtney, Duka and Jesse from the Lion Arts Factory too. So this week's podcast is going to be a mammoth one. Just
action-packed.
Block out a few hours. It's going to be that long.
That's it. Don't miss it.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. And thank you, Hamish, for coming in tonight.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you. It's been wonderful. It's been a ride. It's been fun.
As always, you're listening to Fresh.
Wavelength.